Hello everyone, this is Ashley Tucker. Thank you for joining me today. Today I'm sharing a card created with the CHILLIN FRENCHIES stamp set from Simon Says Stamp's brand new release. Here's a closer look at that stamp set, and I picked one out, put it in my Misti, and I'm stamping it with Gina Designs Jet Black Amalgam ink onto some Bristol smooth paper. I'm going to be painting this using my Arteza Real Brush pens. Now, normally when I use these watercolor markers, I tend to use the marker directly on the paper and then blend it out with a water brush. But in this case, I decided that I wanted to change things up. So I scribbled with the markers onto my glass mat, and I'm picking up the color with a paintbrush and then adding it to my paper. For the fur on the dog, I used the colors chamomile, ginger, tawny, and chocolate. I started with that chamomile color, which is my lightest color, and I actually watered it down a little bit so that it's even lighter, and then I filled in the entire dog. I then took my next darkest color, which is ginger, and I started to map out my shadows, and I also filled in any of the areas of the fur that I want to be a little bit darker. Now, before I started painting this dog, I looked up pictures of French bulldogs online, and I saw that a lot of them had darker fur around their nose on their face, and some of them had darker fur on their ears. So I decided to paint mine that way. So after I finished up with the ginger color, I took the colors tawny and chocolate, and I darkened up the area on the face around the nose and the ears. For the hat, I used the colors tomato red, red, and currant red, and I kept that painting very simple, using the lightest color for the whole thing, and then adding my shading with the darker two colors. I decided to paint the ball with some blue-green colors. I thought that these colors would complement really well with the red of the hat, and for that I used the colors turquoise, electric blue, and true blue. And finally, I had to paint the ears and the tongue, and for those I used the colors Fair Skin, Apricot, and Tomato Red. Here you can see I added some dot details with a Copic marker around the nose. Like I said before, I looked up some images of some French bulldogs, and a lot of them had that around their face, so I decided to add that with the Copic. At this point, I also took my white gel pen and I added some highlights to the dog, and then I cut him out using my Scan and Cut. For my background, I took a piece of Neenah Classic Crest Solar White cardstock, and I cut it down to be slightly smaller than an A2 size card base, and I'm stamping some of the images from the stamp set onto that using some Simon Says Stamp Fog ink. I could have used my Misti in order to do this stamping, but I would have had to keep moving those images, so I thought it would just be easier to use some acrylic blocks. So like I said, I'm filling in this background with some of the images from that stamp set, but I also decided to take this little word stamp which says woof. I thought that that would be really cute to fill in some of the background with. When you have lots of really tiny images in your stamp set, I think that this is a really great way to make a background that looks really clean and subtle. The really great thing about this fog ink is that it stamps really clearly, but it's light enough that this background isn't busy. If it were a darker ink, then this background might look a little bit cluttered. Another really great thing about this ink is I can stamp on top of it with black ink and have my sentiment be read really clearly, which you can see I'm doing right now. I took that Hey Friend stamp from that stamp set and I stamped it right onto my background. I also wanted to add a second sentiment to this, so I took a piece of Schoolhouse red cardstock and I prepped it for embossing, and then I stamped this smaller sentiment and embossed it with Alabaster white embossing powder from Brutus Monroe. I then cut that sentiment down into a tiny little strip and added some foam tape on the back and popped it up underneath my bigger sentiment. I also grabbed my dog image and I added some foam tape to the back of him and popped him up underneath both of those sentiments. I then took that entire panel and I popped it up onto an A2 size white card base. I really like the look of a white card base with a white panel popped up on top of it. And actually with that, this card is all done. I kept this card really clean and simple, but I love the way that it came out. Thank you so much for watching today. I hope you really enjoyed this card design. Don't forget to check out the new Simon Says stamp release. I have that linked down below. I also have linked all of the products that I used for today's card. If you enjoyed watching today and you are not subscribed to my channel yet, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so that you can see all of my future videos. I'm going to be back with another video really soon. Again, thank you for watching. I appreciate all of you, and I hope you have a good day today.